Internal rotation.
Actually, yes, but I'm looking for something else. We went through this last week. Can anyone else answer?
Is it the depression of the scapula?
Very good. It is the forward and downward movement of the scapula, which is internal rotation, but I want you to know exactly what is happening at the scap. Okay? It's forward, downward of the scapula. That's how it pulls. Okay? When the ribs are in a fixed position. Okay? However, when the scapula is in a fixed position instead, okay, so retracted and depressed or whatever movement you're held it in or protraction, whatever, when the scapula is in a fixed position and it's not allowed free movement, it helps with inspiration, which is, breathing. But the portion of it, inspiration. Okay? So one more time, if the ribs aren't fixed, it allows for downward and forward rotation of the scapula if the ribs aren't fixed. So maybe like when we're, sitting around doing nothing, okay? Or maybe we're not in an arch position, okay? This is also fixed ribs position because the ribs are holding stable, yeah, but you're almost in a thoracic arch position. That is needed for a bench press, especially on a barbell, okay? Or when the scapula is in a fixed position of the bench press, it helps with this. Right? Because it does help people breathe. The problem is that a lot of people who are stressed, okay, forget to breathe into the diaphragm. I'm sure you heard the terminology that singers are supposed to breathe into the diaphragm. We are also supposed to work the diaphragm. It is a muscle and a very important one when it comes to breathing. However, everyone is extremely stressed and does this. And guess what? The scapula is also in a fixed position. It is in a protracted position where they stay like this and they tap all day. Okay? And when they breathe, because the scapula is fixed, now they do this right into that pec minor. Okay? And it just pulls everything forward and shortens. Okay? So fixed scapular position doesn't have to just be retraction and depression. Okay? It can also be in a fixed protracted position. Okay? Does that give you guys a little bit of a context of why people at office works are really compromised? Okay? Cool. Fun fact, that just happened to me now. The thing is, the more you think about anatomy, the more it gives you clues on how to problem solve clients. I didn't even think of this before, okay? But sometimes lightning just hits. So the more you revise on anatomy, the deeper you're going to understand to how to fix your clients or help your clients or make them stronger or whatever the hell you want this to do. Okay? Now we'll go into the back muscles, okay? Or the spinal stabilizers of the core muscle. I like to include back as core. I know a lot of people don't, but I do. It's actually taught to me by one of my mentors, Sebastian Arab, who passed down to me this information. It's because he likes to call it that too, due to it is a spinal stabilizer on the posterior side. A lot of people just think core as abdominal muscles and oblique muscles, which are lateral and anterior stabilizers of your trunk and also your spine, but combine it all together to get complete stability during your any high complexity movements or any exercise you have in the gym. You would also need to think about your posterior side, which is usually your back muscles. Why I include the upper, middle, lower fibers as a trap, because they all help stabilize the cervical portion of the spine as well. Yeah, so we don't just end at thoracic or lumbar. Rhomboids, meaning diamond shaped, okay, are broken up into two muscles. They have the major and the minor, okay? What are the movements of both minor and major of the rhomboids, Maria?
So extend the thoracic, extend.
It does aid with thoracic extension.
Adduction of the scapula, elevation, and medially rotate the scapula downwards.
So think of it more this way. It actually more just retracts and rotates the scapula downwards more than anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't exactly, because medial rotation, remember, aids with internal rotation. It does not really aid with internal rotation. Okay? how the rhomboid attaches, okay, is it attaches into cervical and also thoracic, okay, of the lumbar. So it goes from these points through a ligament, okay, and the rhomboid attaches in the spinous process, okay, and also the thoracic portion of the lumbar. So it's here. We'll go more about that when we have the skeleton. But the thing is, yes, it aids with extension, okay, because we are doing retraction and depression. That is the role of rhomboids. It doesn't really aid with protraction or internal rotation too much. That is more lats. Okay?
No. Okay.
Yeah. When I show you how it inserts and attaches into it, you'll see why it doesn't do that. It's because it only attaches to a certain portion, okay, of the spine, and also a certain portion of the scapula as well. Why it doesn't cause internal rotation of it is because it doesn't come around and attaches, okay, into one of the points of the glenohumeral joint where the humerus inserts into. It's because the lat attaches more anteriorly of the body. That's why it pulls it in. However, it doesn't attach like that. It attaches to the posterior part, okay, which is our shoulder blades, so it doesn't cause internal rotation. Yeah, does that make sense? Because remember how a muscle moves the joint is it pulls it together through a concentric contraction. All good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's okay. We'll unlock more when we actually go through the skeleton, okay? Now, with rhomboids, so one more time, it's retraction and also downward rotation. So retraction and depression, it is essential to shoulder stability and like scapular stability, okay? It is essential to a lot of exercises that we do and a lot of movements that we do, okay? But the unfortunate part is everyone's really weak, especially in the rhomboids, because they're all like this. It constantly puts it in a lengthened position. It's not right, right? And they're working more of internal rotation instead. Okay? So any rowing variations done correctly is going to work the rhomboids. The next one is the trapezius. Okay, think of trapezium, which is an irregular and a four-sided figure. So, can't draw. Okay. What muscle? There are three muscles of the trap. Okay, Eddie, can you list them out for me, please?
Superior fiber, middle fiber, and inferior fibers.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so we've got upper, middle, lower. Okay, to put it in layman's terms. Okay, what does the upper trap do, Eddie?
Elevation of scapula, extension of neck and head, and lateral flexion of neck and head.
Okay. Yes, but remember it's extension in a fixed scapular position. Okay? So scapula has to be fixed. It just helps the movement a bit better. So one more time, upper traps, elevates, okay? And also works in extension, but better to be done when the scapula is in a fixed position. Okay? So when we say that we want the traps to switch off during a bench press, okay, even the upper traps, this is a bit of a trick question. Do you think that it is really necessary, Jordan? Press space. It actually unmutes faster.
No.
Why is that? What do you think? So think of a bench press, right? All we need to do, we need thoracic extension, we need retraction, depression of the scapula, especially if we're going to a wide grip because it helps with, abduction, okay? Because we're at this point now, all right? So do we need the upper traps to switch off? Because what we need to do,
No.
yeah, we actually do need to incorporate in a sense because we need that fixed scapular extension, okay? To really help keep the whole spine, cervicals, okay, part of the portion to thoracic to lumbar, all of that stable. Yeah, nothing moves. Okay, remember we don't move the spine with load. However, think about the extension portion of it. The elevation portion of it as well. Upper traps also help elevate the shoulders. Has anyone met my client Kyle, who was really stressed out for a very long time because he was worked like triple shifts at one point? He looks like a box, yeah, because his traps are so up. Yeah, he looks like an actual square box. It's not because he has really meaty shoulders. He's just got fuck off traps. Because he's always like this. He's always tense. He's always stressed from work, and he literally holds himself like this. So in a sense, yes, we do need the upper traps to work to help with extension of the head. But if they're constantly stuck in elevation, okay, what can we do during the session to fix it? And remember, this client is already moving load, okay? They need stability. The big factor is that they need stability of the shoulder joint. What can they do to fix this problem?
Work the lats, engage the lats.
So lats, remember one more time, lats are a very powerful internal rotator, okay? Also helps with adduction as well. Yeah, we're talking about the fixed scapula. You're on the right track. I can see when you think you're on the right track. So the shoulder joint, the scapula, okay, it needs to be in a fixed position, okay? But remember, if there's elevation, you're pulling the shoulder blade up, while we need retraction and depression in a bench press, okay? So what could we work to help it?
Being like external rotation or like depression of the scapula?
Very good, yeah? That's actually very good. We can work with external rotation and depressional exercises of the scap, or you can even do some rows, yeah? Because that helps with retraction and depression of the scapula with holds. Now, I'm going to go back to Dunya's answer. She's not wrong in saying lats and saying lat pull down, okay? There's a reason why, is because that actually follows the movement pattern very closely of a bench press. And in a lat pull down, you're also doing retraction and depression of the shoulder blade through rhomboids. And when you pull down, yes, you're working lats, but you got that retraction depression going at the rhomboids. And this is the exact position you need to bench press. So it's very good to give them kind of like kinesthetic feedback of where they need to hold themselves. So lat pull down is not an incorrect answer. If you said lat pull down, would have accepted it. But if you say to work the lats, then no, because the lats is a very powerful internal rotator. What we're looking for is retraction, depression of the shoulder blade exercises. Okay, so yes, external rotation exercises will actually help hold it as well, because it helps with those posterior fibers of the deltoid, and it also helps with that depression of the scapula as well. Okay, and retraction of the scapula. But rows and lat pull downs usually work a bit better. My go-to is usually lat pull downs.
Tats, is that regards to RPE?
What do you mean?
So you're saying do the lat pull down, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a good exercise. But would you be saying like the RPE of that exercise should be like 7 or 8 rather than a 10, so the lats aren't over dominating?
Well, no, definitely not. Okay, but we're also seeing it. Do you just need it as a quick like wake up? Is it not in the program? Okay, do you just need them to understand the movement of it? If that is, okay, do holds. RPE should not be that high. I would even do it at like, I don't know, like for example, George can do what, 70 kilos on a lat pull down. Okay, maybe he's benching 112 for the day. Okay, it's an easy day for him. All right, 112 for a day on a lat pull down. On a bench press. But he's not really engaging his lats too well. I want them to switch. I want him to get like retraction depression on, because he's got too much elevation, okay, of the upper trap. So, but okay, cool. Go to lat pull down. What weight should I do? Not much. Let's do 50 kilos. Let's do 40 kilos. Let's work 8 reps and just really work on that hold. Because Carl's right. You don't really want the RPE too high or the effort too high to fatigue it. You're just getting them to stimulate it. So think of it as a warm-up routine. You are to stimulate, not annihilate the muscle. You are just giving kinesthetic feedback or proprioceptive feedback for them to be like, hey, work. It's like getting someone to do side clams if you see their knees cave in during a squat because their glutes are firing. Does that answer your question, Carl? Yeah, cool, very good. Okay.
Just my lat pull down's at 94. So.
I don't know. We're in lockdown at the moment. We haven't done it in ages. We'll see what happens. Cool. Okay, cool. Does anyone have any questions regarding that little tangent we have? Cool. Fantastic. Remember, there's never just one way that fixes everything. Lat pull downs might not work on some people. Rows worked great on me when lat pull downs didn't. Wilford needed that adduction and external rotation drill by Andrew Locke. Yeah. Some of my clients just needed me to actually get them to pause and poke the shit out of the lats and cue them to pull the bar apart for it to actually work. While we poke the lats, I can't reach under and poke the rhomboids and pull their scapula into position. Yeah, one, it's awkward. Number two, just smudge. Okay, so let's go into the middle trap. All right, that was a big tangent. Maria, can you tell me the movements and actions of the middle trap?
Got it draws the scapula medially.
So you're not incorrect. The fibers run on the, this is why they call it medial. Think medial. The fibers will run horizontally, okay, of the trap. And what that does is horizontal.
So retraction and
Exactly. If you think horizontal, it's retraction of the scap because you just pull back. That's a little bit of like a horizontal movement, okay? It's one good way to think about it. Okay, and now the final one, the lower fibers. Jordan, can you tell me what the lower fibers do of the trap?
Depression.
Yeah, exactly. Depression. The lower trap is a fantastic aid in deadlifts, okay? Because the thing is, when we go into deadlifting, all right, a little bit of tangent here again, we do not want any form of thoracic extension. We do not want movement of the spine whatsoever. We want to move the spine in a neutral position, okay? Which is slight kyphosis, okay? Everyone has slight kyphosis in them. Me and Jordan more than most people, okay? So you're in your neutral spine of slight kyphosis into slight lordosis, okay? If I do retraction and depression, I am now doing thoracic extension. Do you think I should pick the bar up with an extremely arched back? No, fuck no. No, because I'll tell you what, the moment you pull, your spine's not in position. I don't care how heavy you brace or anything, you're doing movement of the spine. The moment you pull up, remember, forces work together, okay? If you got extreme extension in, okay, and then you pull up, the force of the bar is literally instantly going to pull you back down. You're going to go straight away into flexion. That's movement of the spine because you weren't in position to lock it in. All right. So that's why we definitely never cue retraction depression on the shoulder blade. We only cue depression. One way to cue that is literally tell someone to push their hands towards the floor as hard as you can. That is your lower trap working, okay? Because you're doing depression with the scap. Now, one thing you can also do as well to get the upper trap to hold in an isometric contraction is to tell them to elongate the spine, because that is extension of the head with a fixed scapular position. Okay, so shoulders back and down, extension of the spine, which is elongate the spine or lengthen your spine. Something I've taught Dunya to help her secure her whole posterior chain tight in the back. Okay? Does it kind of start to like make sense now how every single muscle is connected and how it all actually works really great into it? I don't need you to explain this to your clients. I don't need you to tell your clients. I need your upper trap to hold in isometric contraction and hold your head into extension. I need your lower traps to hold into depression. But it's really good for you guys to know if something's happening, yeah, in the lift and you're like, oh, cool. I think I know what muscle it is. I think I know how to cue it. I think I know how to troubleshoot this. Okay? All right, guys. Best muscle for the last one. The last one is the latissimus dorsi, okay? Widest back. Who I think either me or George has it, to be honest. I don't know yet. Or one of us do. All right, Carl. All right. So the lats, okay, are split into 4, okay? But we'll talk about that another time. It's just a fun fact. It actually is split into 4 parts. But what are the movements of the latissimus dorsi? Let's go. Carl, you haven't answered one. Let's go, Carl.
Yep. Latissimus dorsi, what does it do?
Yeah, what's the movements of the muscle?
Well, it helps with internal rotation.
It does help with internal rotation. What are the other two movements of it as well?
When using lats to presses.
So the lats. So think about what it happens in the when it inserts in the humerus. What it does for it. Okay, it actually helps extend the arm
Yep.
at the glenohumeral joint. Okay, and also lats, how it attaches in, helps adduction as well. So remember, a good thing to think about. It wouldn't more so work on depression. Depression is more the lower fibers of the trap and also the scapular position as well. While lats, the way it attaches, because it attaches from the bottom of the pelvis, the top of the pelvis, it comes and wraps around and it inserts into the humerus via the glenohumeral joint. When it pulls it together, it more just does this. Yeah. So not so much depression, but think of the way it attaches in the pulls. That's why origins, insertions, or distal attachment and proximal attachments will be very interesting for us to learn, because you'll see how the fibers run and where it attaches into the bones. And remember this, when a muscle contracts to move, it pulls it together. So it will be interrotation and adduction, which helps with bench pressing. So how do we program 1-to-1 ratio of upper body, Eddie? Knowing that both the lat and the pec are big, powerful adductors and internal rotators.
Either how to say push to pull. How to say then if we're doing a bench press, the other one can be more rows, as you mentioned on the previous Q&As.
Let's stop there. Did you just say more rows?
Yes.
Okay. So understand that when you say, Eddie, it's okay, because this is really good. A lot of coaches will usually say, okay, just do more of this, more of this, more of this. But you have to remember, if you give them more rows beforehand, you are now doing the ratio over 1-to-1.
Oh.
Yeah, I understand that we have to.
Sorry, I just in a way said meant more like a row variation of it. So if one day we're doing, like, let's say, if like more variation, that one day we're doing more like horizontal and the other day more vertical.
In a sense, okay, kind of get what you're talking about yes and no at the same time. Yeah, You're right to include horizontal and vertical variations of the rows. It is definitely needed to balance out the horizontal and vertical portions of our presses. Okay, so that is 1-to-1. But if you suggest something, and this is what I'm going to quickly pick on now, is some people will suggest straight away, do more rows compared to your
Tats, we can't hear you.
You're muted.
So, there we go. So if you press space, I found out accidentally. So think about it this way. A lot of coaches will do that. You're not wrong in doing that. You are looking to balance out the body. I get that. Yeah. It's just when we think about 1-to-1 ratio, if you program in more rows now, okay, let's say you do like 5 sets of rows to 2 sets of bench press, you are now punishing the muscles that are working, that are stabilizing the joint, okay, and that are strong, okay? We don't want to forego stability of that joint and sacrifice it, okay? So that's why we want 1-to-1 ratio. It will catch up eventually. But if you're saying in the terms of that, I'm going to give them things like the big 4, okay? And let's say the big 3 before they do their bench presses, okay, which is a shoulder stabilization exercise and also a stimulation of your back muscles. Great, but remember, this is stimulation, yeah? Over time, it will add up, okay? Over time. But this is more just to stimulate the muscles to work, so you know what movements to feel for, so you know what to work, yeah? But if you go into the working sets and you give someone more rows in comparison to bench, you can do that. Some people do that. They say it's a 2 to 1, okay, pull to push ratio. I just prefer if you keep it 1 to 1 properly, because then you're not punishing what's strong and what's working, okay, and eventually it will catch up. It just takes time. And also, one more time to bring it back to what Eddie asked us once, is like his client, he's doing everything correct, he's getting the external rotation work in, all that in, he's working the back for this client, and she's still not seeing any progress. Well, then that's when you have to think about combating the other, like, 10 hours of the day they're awake and not in the session doing training with you. You have to think about, if you want to go that extra step, if you really want to fix someone's structure balance, that's when you have to think about 1-to-1 ratio in their life as well. Internal rotation, what I was looking for, Eddie, was 1-to-1 ratio of internal rotation versus external rotation. Yeah, that's what people need to think of more in the upper body instead of just push and pull. Yeah, because remember, for structural balance means around a joint 360 degrees is equal amounts of muscle that are strong and working to stabilize the joint and stabilize the bone that's going into the joint in a centralized position. To do that, we need muscle all around the joint evenly. Now, if your client is constantly in internal rotation, then you need to give her external rotation every couple of hours to fight that. That's a 1-to-1 ratio as well, outside of the gym. So if you're not seeing someone progress, yeah, and the corporate workers, then you need to give them something to combat that. 1 hour in the gym, twice a week to do 2 upper body sessions is going to do fuck all in the 40, 50 hours of work for doing this. Yeah? Well, it's not going to do fuck all. It's like adding 1 cent into your bank every year and hoping for $1,000. You know, it's just not going to work. I don't know the math, but it's just not going to work. Yeah. Okay, so bring it all back into this. So when you program one more time for upper body, don't just think push to pull. Yeah, we're better coaches than that. That's what $60 coaches think. Oh, let's work on the agonist, antagonist. Cool, done. No, think about the movements of the joint, and we'll go into this in programming. Think about the movement of the joint. Think about what's missing. Yeah? Think about what you've worked and what's missing of the movement of that joint. Is there range? Okay. Is the opposite movement not getting that much? Okay. Is the agonist movement not getting worked? Is the synergist movement not getting worked? I've done 2 variations of internal rotation now, so I need to add in a bit more external rotation. Yeah. Now, think of it this way too. Usually we only put in external rotation work in a C series, and it's just 1 exercise. Okay, maybe that's why we're bringing the warm-ups that have a little bit more external rotation, okay, and a little bit more posterior back work as well, because that kind of evens it out a little bit as well. All right, so that is the muscles of the upper body. That is Anatomy 101 for the upper body. Does anyone has any questions they want to revise or anything they want to revise in particular before I hand it off to Carl?
Yeah, one thing on the rhomboid. You said that the rhomboid is a stabilizer for the scapula and also the shoulder, or only the scapula?
Scapula is shoulder.
Ah, okay.
Well, it is a joint of the shoulder. Okay. The glenohumeral joint is also a joint of the shoulder, but it's a socket. It's just one portion of the shoulder. But if you think stabilization, think scapula. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Think of it this way: scapula allows like movement of our upper body and also our shoulder joint as well. Mm-hmm. Shoulder joint opening is the glenohumeral joint. That's the name for it. But scapular shoulder.
Okay.
Anything else? Cool. Awesome.
I do.
Yes, Maria.
Sorry, we have been talking about the push and pull ratio with the examples for the upper body. I was just wondering, what about the lower?
We will get into that when we go over the lower body anatomy and also the core.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't worry, we will definitely get into it. But better off not overloading it So this week we're doing a revisal on Tuesday of the upper body, and then on Thursday we'll talk about programming for the upper body, and then next time we'll go to anatomy of the lower body. Well, core muscles first, revisal of the core muscles. The week after we'll go into anatomy of the lower body, and then the programming, how to program for lower body as well. Yeah, but quickly to answer that, push to pull ratio, don't think of that so much of the lower body. Think the movement. And so one more time, I'm going to say this. Think the movements of the joint. You got, what happens at the knee, Maria? What are two movements of the knee?
Flexion and extension.
Cool. What are the two movements of the hip as well, the big ones?
Abduction and abduction. No, extension and flexion.
Yeah, cool. Flexion and extension, okay? So what do you think is going to be the 1-to-1 ratio of the lower body? It's not a trick question. So think about it this way, Maria, if the knee and the hip both work flexion and extension, what is going to be the main thing we're kind of looking at for lower body? Don't you suck?
I don't know. Abduction and
So no, the answer's right there. It's also flexion and
flexion
extension.
and extension. Okay.
Yeah. That's okay. That's okay. So that, like, think about it this way, right? We've got extensors of the knee, quads, okay? Also flexors of the knee, okay, which is like hamstrings. We've got extensors of the hip, okay, which is like hamstrings as well, okay, and then we got flexion of the hips. Okay. Sorry, flexion of the hips. Sorry, we got quad and hamstrings, and then we got extension of the hips, which is glutes. Okay. So what do you think are the movements or the exercise we're going to look in more for 1-to-1 ratio? Big ones. Think big, you know?
Deadlifts.
Yeah, okay. Work more of a bend pattern or extension. Okay. What about
Squat.
flexion of the knee? Very good. That is a big one to think of. But of course, there's always more.
Okay, so it doesn't have to do with the fact that you're pushing and then you're pulling. No, it's not.
Don't push and pull is a very aesthetic bodybuilding way of programming.
Okay.
It's not wrong, but if you want to think more about like movements, think one more time. The movement of the joint, the action of the joint, and the muscles responsible for moving the joint. I know you want to be a strength coach, yeah? So instead of thinking like push and pull, like, you know, like exercise, think what works the flexors of the hip, what works the extensors of the knee, okay, vice versa, and how you can program exercises to cover that. Does that make sense? Yeah? Yeah.
Thank you, Dad.
That's completely fine. That's so fine. But quick thing into why we only like program like maybe 1 day of squat, 1 day of deadlifts, and 2 days of upper body. Does anyone know why?
Why you do like split days?
Yeah, like why would we program like that?
Well,
Yes,
Who did you ask?
there's many reasons.
the
Like,
load.
Not all at once, like literally.
Can you ask? Can you make the question again?
So my preferred way of programming is squat, and then vertical press, and then deadlift, and then horizontal press. Okay, but I usually do like 2 press days with vertical and horizontal both paired up together. Why do you think it's okay for me to program like that if we're talking about a 1-to-1 push to pull ratio?
because anyway, you're hitting the ratio during the week. It doesn't
Yeah.
have
So you're still doing 1-to-1. You're doing 1-to-1 like of the legs, yeah, which is knee flexion and extension. Okay, squat and bend, which are paired, yeah. And then you got to push. But why? My question is, why do you think I can hit upper body for 2 times, but only do individual days for squat and deadlift?
because it requires more effort.
Good. So really quick tangent. That was really good. Okay. When I ask you guys things, it's not trick questions. Half the time the answer is right in front of you. It's just my way of drilling it into you so you remember it, because that's how I learned. I don't know if that's how you guys learned, but repetition makes, good. Not perfect, but good. All right. So with how we do it is because, well, you can smash the lower body more. The upper body. You can smash the upper body more. The upper body seriously can't handle as much weight unless you're a massive gym bro that never chains legs and you have chicken legs like George back in the day. Okay? So he calls it lever day. He only does upper body, So the thing is, right, you can always do upper body more. It can handle more because it doesn't have as much volume. Okay? One more time. Load is also equivalent to volume. It's not doing as much volume. So that's why you can program upper body twice, but lower body, I usually keep one movement per day and we're good. Yeah. But that's for strength. Hypertrophy and aesthetics, I'll let Carl take over because I know he loves to do more than that. Cool. We'll leave the programming discussion for Thursday before I give everything away. All right, cool. Is there any other questions otherwise? Thanks, guys. This was great today. Awesome.
Thank you, Tats.
No worries. Thank you. I'll leave it all to Carl.